thing that
Yeah.
Here comes Susie, so
Okay.
we'll wait until Susie gets in.
any kind of 75. Okay.
He's not,
We
he's
sit.
in the hospital.
Oh,
Maybe it'll be one of those. No, I don't care, but. You know.
I see, you're right. We waited.
I was funny things.
We're gonna get started. I'd like to call on March 23rd, Planning Commission meeting to order. We do have one person online. And Karen, can you hear us?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, our first action item is to approve the minutes from the February 23rd meeting. They were in our packet, and if there are no changes, corrections, omissions, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Questions, comments? All in favor of approving the minutes of February 23rd, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this is, we have two open forums. One in the beginning of the meeting that has to do with action items, which tonight there's only one action item. And then at the end, there's an opportunity for an open forum for anyone, to bring up any topic. Hey Karen, can you mute your, did you kick her off?
No, I muted everybody. She took my video off. You guys can do it.
okay.
Yeah, just, we were picking up your road noise.
So,
Perfect.
I might have cut it off. Sorry.
So, for anyone that wants to speak, we have a 3-minute timeline, and just give your name and address. So is there anyone that would like to speak about any of the topic option? You guys will, you're the next thing in line. So is there anybody that wants to talk about any of the action items that are in front, the action item in front of us?
I have a question. I'm not used to the format here. If you're here, like, for one of the items that are being discussed, you talk about that now? Or?
You can talk about it now, or you can talk about it at the end. It's your choice.
Okay, we can talk about that at the end.
Okay. The advantage of talking about it in the beginning
Okay.
is we would get to know what the comments are.
Okay.
And before we would take action. If you talk about it afterwards,
Okay.
there's a good chance that we've already taken action, and if your comments are
Okay, well,
for
then
or
I guess
against,
it'd be better to speak now.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, we're here in regards to the.
we need your name and your address.
Sorry.
That's okay, it's fine.
Jennifer Marburger, and it's 3075 North Street Place, Honeybrook.
Okay.
And, we're here in regards of the Dollar General.
Okay.
We had sold this property, I guess now about, I don't know,
2008.
2008. And there was a plan kind of in place, thinking that it was gonna be, we knew it was commercial, and there would be commercial things going in there. But what is going in here now is not at all what we envisioned, or, houses being surrounded and having a huge building in front and having air conditioning units on top, you know, it right next to the driveway. There's just, and for the building to need so many variances to even be able to be passed, that's not what goes in that area. And I, unfortunately, we found out about this meeting a little too, or today, but I talked to, you know, the neighbors around there, and that is not what they want going in there. And they would object if that was to come up, because from what I understand, they're supposed to be notified.
Correct.
Something that big is going
Right,
in.
when they go to schedule the actual date of the zoning hearing, all the surrounding neighbors, I think it's within 500 feet, will get notification of the actual zoning hearing.
We recognize it's commercial space and understand, you know, something's going to go in there, but this is not what should go into a place surrounded by houses.
What's in front of us this evening is the zoning relief request, and whether the planning commission recommends to the supervisors and the zoning hearing board to support it or not support it or take no position. So that's what's in front of us this evening, and that's what we'll be addressing when the applicant
I mean,
presents.
it looks like they're want to cut in half the requirements, more than half, and have signs that big in that area, and have, just that large of a building right out front there. That's just not what we envisioned.
Okay, I understand your comments.
I mean, we went through the process of having to get a plan approved back in 2008. And I believe things have changed since then, but you had to go all the way around the building to be able to have a safe access for the fire trucks. And so that pushed the building further into the property. It wasn't backed up all the way to our driveway. And we were also told that there was going to be trees surrounding it to provide a barrier so that there would not be, yeah, it was supposed to be hidden, if you will.
And if, depending on the outcome, if that moves forward, screening will be things that will be discussed later. If it doesn't move forward, then obviously there's no need for that discussion.
Okay, I'm just mentioning, you know, as what we are talking about.
Okay, understand. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Can I,
Hang on, Karen, you'll be next.
All right, good evening. Shane Head, 410 North Bridell Road. So this is right in my neighborhood, really. Yeah, I agree with the Meyerburgers. This is not what we need in Honeybrook. I don't think anybody ever moved to Honeybrook because they wanted easy access to shopping. The plan in farmer terminology is 50 pounds of something in a 20-pound bag from the looks of it. I see setbacks that are like, if I came in here and wanted to build something that close to a property line, you guys would laugh me out of the room. So that was one of my concerns. And they're asking to put in a giant sign, which I don't think has been an issue for the other businesses in along there. Everybody can find Little Anthony's Pizza just fine. It's always busy on Friday night. So, yeah, I am urging you tonight to oppose this proposal moving forward. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Shane. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Steve Jenkinson. I live on North Bridell as well, 594. Been in the home 10 years. My property looks right back to where this property is considering to be built. I have concerns with traffic. Making a right turn on North Bridell heading towards Shady Maple is scary enough. When you have someone riding behind you, you're going to add more traffic going in there, and from what it looks like, They don't even have half the parking spaces required to put a building like that in there. I also shared concerns on the sign, lighting, and, you know, having that look out my back kitchen window, and it looks like a nice open area. I know it's scheduled to be sold commercially, but that's not something I want to be looking at either.
Okay. Thank you. Karen, I said you would be next. I'm sorry, now you're next. Are you still there?
Liar.
It wasn't intentional.
That's okay, honey. Look, I was just wanted to say, I agree with everybody else. This is not a place where, yeah, we got traffic coming, like, buses out of town, and that area is, I see a lot of problems. And if I'm not mistaken, they tried to put one there maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and it was declined. So I asked you to, work with us and, help us. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, now we'll move on to, we have no subdivision application, so we'll move on to item E, which is the zoning hearing conditional use applications. So, how do you want to do this, Jen? Do you want them to present, or do you want to?
Yeah, you guys can present. This is, the plan is similar to the sketch plan we saw a couple months ago, I think. Yeah, exactly when it was. But if you guys can give an introduction to the plan and the relief that you're requesting, and then we can discuss it accordingly.
And good evening, I'm Dennis Reichel with HRG, and with me tonight is Bill Owen, the developer. And before you tonight is the Dollar General project, and as discussed previously, we are here for a zoning hearing application and requesting 3 variances for relief. The site that you're familiar with is located at 3073 Horseshoe Pike on the north side of Horseshoe Pike, between North Burnell Road and Coppola Road. It is located within the mixed-use commercial district, and the use is allowed by right. It's approximately 1 acre in net size, and we're proposing about a 10,600 square foot Dollar General store, which would include sales of fresh food and a freezer section. The site would be served by public sewer and water. Landscape and lighting will be provided in compliance with the ordinances. We would certainly be providing stormwater management facilities. And as we've already heard about traffic tonight, as it's located on Horseshoe Pike, we would be required to work with PennDOT to obtain a highway occupancy permit and also prepare a traffic impact study. And moving ahead, should these variances be approved, it would certainly be something that we would have to comply with and prepare. And my understanding is, the nearest grocery stores in this region are anywhere from 2 to 5 miles away from this location. So there seems to be a need for, this type of store. And right now, what I'd like to do is kind of look at the 3 variances that you have in front of you tonight. And I know those were already referenced by a handful of people in attendance. The first variance that we are requesting is relief from the parking space number. We are proposing 28 parking spaces, and the ordinance requires 65 spaces for a building of this size. And I'm going to be discussing that a little bit further, but in general, a Dollar General store usually has right around that number of parking spaces. We have provided a letter of support from the Dollar General store, and that's in compliance with what they would like to see for a store of this size. 65 spaces is not really applicable and common the size of the store, and that would certainly take up, the majority of the property. The second variance relates to the building signage. And you may be familiar with Dollar General stores, but ultimately, the signage that we're proposing is consistent with all the other Dollar General stores in Pennsylvania. And it is a very common sign that they use on all their stores. I believe the square footage of that is roughly 150 square feet, and the ordinance only allows 50 square feet, so we're looking for relief from that requirement. And the third variance is related to off-street loading and deliveries. And as with any typical commercial development, typically deliveries are made there, and in order to make deliveries to the site, we are going to be maneuvering through the parking lot in order to back up to the rear of the store. And there is a minor conflict with two of the parking spaces. And normally what we would do in that situation is that we would sign those spaces for employees and likely sign them for, to note the delivery hours. Deliveries would be made during off hours to minimize conflicts. But that would certainly be the way that we would look to deal with that. The zoning ordinance, has a number of requirements that need to be met in order to obtain a variance. And I'm certainly more than happy to walk through those. I don't necessarily want to go through those in detail, but I'd be more than happy to do that. And one of the items in the zoning ordinance, it talks about unique and unusual circumstances for a site and why relief may be needed. And I believe that is certainly applicable to this site. I mean, looking at the size and the width of this, we are a little limited on what we can do in here, particularly with parking. We've certainly, maxed that out, to provide parking in the front of the lot to the maximum extent possible. And that provides approximately 28 spaces. And as I mentioned previously, that's in compliance with what a Dollar General store would typically provide for a store of that size. The other unique features about the site is that there's a driveway and easement located on the western side of the property. And you can kind of see here, that driveway actually encroaches onto our property. We are not proposing to relocate the driveway, but again, that kind of limits the area that we have to work with. And our opinion is, that this will not alter the character of this area, because ultimately we're requesting relief from providing 65 parking spaces. I think if 65 parking spaces were to be required on this lot, that would certainly be a sea of asphalt. It would increase, impervious cover, increase stormwater needs, and that would create a number of parking spaces there that I don't think the neighbors would want to see that many cars parked at a Dollar General store, and certainly that's not typical for the size of the store. So overall, we believe that, this variance is really the minimum relief that we need, and it's consistent with the many other stores that Dollar General has constructed across the country. The second variance relates to the building sign, and again, based upon Dollar General studies and, their experience is typically based upon road weight, speeds, and visibility, that these types of signs are needed to ensure that motorists are able to ascertain where the building is and where the driveway is, and so that people are clearly aware that this is located in the neighborhood.
To just clarify, your sign variance is for the wall signage,
Yes, correct.
not the sign out by the road.
Right, yeah, so there is a pylon sign located here that would be in compliance with the zoning ordinance. And then the building signage would be located on the front, kind of the midpoint of the building there. And again, you know, that's the typical sign that Dollar General provides at their stores, and we believe that would be the minimum relief needed for this site. The third variance pertains to off-street loading, as we discussed a little bit. Again, this is a narrow property, it's about 200 feet in width, and the store that we're proposing is about 140 feet in width. So ultimately, in order to make the turning movements, the truck would be pulling in here and then backing up into the loading area. And then in order to pull out of here, it would be encroaching slightly on a couple of parking spaces. And again, our approach to complying with that would be to sign that and also ensure that deliveries are made during off-peak hours. And we believe that that is the minimum relief necessary for this project to move forward. I would certainly be happy to take any questions. I think Bill may want to add a couple of comments, potentially.
Sure. Again, William Owen, Pentex Ventures with a real estate developer. Again, thank you for going through all that. Thank all of you for coming, and again, thank all the residents for coming. Again, on the three variances, as I'm sure all of you know, variances come in two different types. There are use variances and there are dimensional variances. This is not a use variance, as you indicated, we are a use permitted by right, but this is a dimensional variances. Dimensional variances in accordance with the law is called the Hirschberger case. It establishes that they're held to certain different criteria than would a specific use variance. And what Hirschberger in essence says, and again, we'll get into this, through all the subsequent hearings that come up, between here and the zoning relief, is that the requests have to be reasonable. And in essence, what our presentation here is that for example, parking that we're providing is in fact reasonable in consideration of the fact that there are 19,000 of these stores that are built, and they all generally have, around this number of spaces. Our firm this year will build 46 of these, and all of them are somewhere between 25 and 35 spaces, somewhere in between. In terms of the signage, again, it's the typical sign. It's sized insofar as the facade and that kind of balance that goes along with that. And again, it's reasonable considering, there's so many other ones. Again, same thing with the loading. The loading configuration here is consistent with all of the other stores. There typically is a couple spaces that, would be potentially in conflict with, a truck the one truck a week that will come here that will conflict with those two spaces. And again, those are always the employee spaces. Those are the spaces furthest from the yard. Well, let's be honest, when I go to Dollar General by my house, I don't park at the furthest space away. So we believe that, again, that's a reasonable request, because again, those spaces are right furthest away. I did take notes on everyone else's comments, and again, I appreciate all of you coming out. While it's not part of the zoning aspect at hand, I will tell you that I'm more than happy to work with all of you in terms of screening, lighting. You can see on the plan here, extensive landscaping, fencing, rooftop units. We can work on screening that. We're a developer who likes to work with you. We're certainly willing to do so. I have cards. I'm happy to hand out cards to everybody. We keep in touch and hopefully reach something that everyone can be happy with. Again, thank you all for your time. And if you have any questions for myself or Dennis, let me know.
Well, I have a comment. I don't agree that this site is unique in any way, shape, or form. It is a rectangle, there's no floodplain, there's no steep slopes. Those things make a property unique, and this is not unique. This is a typical property. I do not at all believe that you are not altering the neighborhood whatsoever. You are surrounded by residents everywhere. You're gonna tell me that this isn't altering that neighborhood? It most certainly is. Noise. Just think of car doors slamming, people talking, lighting. I mean, this is way too much for this property. Way too much. Way too much for this property. It is. I mean, go build this somewhere else where you have 4 acres or 3 acres or something. This is not appropriate for a 1 acre property. And you're saying that these variances you asked for are minimum? No. The parking spaces, you don't even have half the parking spaces. Your signage is three times the size, and off-street loading, I mean, that's dangerous. What you want these trucks to do is dangerous for people walking in your parking lot. I mean, that's a safety issue. On top of, I mean, you can't guarantee that a truck isn't going to stop on 522 and try to back it around there. You can't guarantee they're going to pull in here and then back up here, because it doesn't happen. I've seen trucks that probably should do this and don't do that. They back up, they'll hold the traffic up on 322. That's dangerous. I mean, this is too much. Way too much for this lot. Period. It just is.
Can you bring, you have a facade, so you can show us what that sign would look like on the building?
I do not have a copy of that with me, but I was, I'm sure that's certainly something that we can provide.
I mean, you talk about what you do everywhere else. I don't care what you do everywhere else, if you want me to be honest with you. I don't really care. I care about what's being done here. So just because your Dollar General works everywhere else doesn't mean it works here. And just because the sign is 150 square feet somewhere else doesn't mean it should be that way here. You have a street sign. What do you need 150 square feet sign for in this building? That's why you put a street sign out there. They know you'll be there. You don't need all this. This is ridiculous.
What's your typical size of building? What's your typical lot in other areas where you build a building?
It really varies. I have one in Altoona right now, for example, that is, let me see, 28,000 square feet. It's got 21 spaces. And then I have some.
That's building size.
No, that's the site.
That's the lot.
That's the whole
So
lot.
tell me what your average is.
It's probably right around that acre and a quarter, acre and a half, somewhere around there.
I do agree with Melissa that I think you're stretching that the site is the constraint, because I would assume you would have done some due diligence and looked at the site and looked at what the zoning requirements are. And you probably, in your due diligence, determined that those items would need to be addressed through zoning review. And on those sites, what's your percentage of utilization of those 28 spots? Are they, I'm going by, I actually went by one in the middle of nowhere, and there was probably 20-some parking spaces in it, and it was nowhere near the kind of population that we have in this area. So I'm curious to know what your percentage of space is being used on a typical day, or
I honestly don't know across the entire spectrum what, an average percentage is. That's certainly something I can reach out to Dollar General and find. I can tell you in my experience, I would say it'd be typical to see 10 to 12, maybe 15 cars at a time. So then again, there's still that extra 10 or so that would still be available. I don't really know that. The one by my house, it has, let's see, right at, this is 28, 30 spaces, something like that. I don't think I've ever seen more of that. And I'm just outside of Greensburg, which is a city. It's about, I'd say, 18,000 people, small city. And I've never seen more than probably 5, maybe 8 cars there at a time. And it's along Route 66, very similar type road to this.
There's a commercial property right up the street here, right beside the car wash, the pharmacy. Something like this going in there makes way more sense than here. It's right down the road. It's commercial. This is just not an appropriate place for this.
Any other comments or questions?
I do agree with the truck turning. I think it's poor planning to have delivery semis to be backing through a parking lot to a just don't see your site analysis that creates a hardship. That's a safety issue. And you say there's one truck, you say there's one truck a week.
One large truck,
One
one of
large
these
truck.
that you see on there, that is what we call the worst case. Dollar General has their specific, tow trucks, those are the tractor trailer you see. Those will be once a week that go there. Obviously, there are other delivery trucks, Pepsi Guy, the Red Guy, things of that nature. Those are obviously much smaller trucks. Much different.
And you ran that through a turning analysis?
Correct. That's all right.
And like, what was the truck that you used to do that? Like a 50-foot trailer?
That looks to me to be a full-size truck
Like I
there.
say, it should be a 67.
Yeah.
They're called WB 67s, which again is like what you can see on the interstate. Full
It says here WB 62.
WB 62.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
there it is.
So it'd be 53-foot trailer with the rear spool.
Any other questions? Any comments?
Yeah, what about traffic on Route 22? I have a lot of concern about.
Sure, I mean, again, the traffic is stuff that we're gonna have to work out, through PennDOT. The first step is always to get, this is the first step, the zoning relief. Once we get through this, as part of land development, we work with the Conservation District and PennDOT and Township. We'll work through all of the traffic-related items. They're gonna have very specific questions on, perhaps the need for turn lanes, et cetera, et cetera. We'll have to cover all that at that point. At this point, we haven't delved into, doing traffic studies or anything of that nature. What this is specifically for these three requested items of relief, which again is the number of spaces, the size of the sign, and then also the truck interference, those two spaces.
But those things don't even matter if you've got a major traffic issue, and you do. The intersection of Burdell Road and 322 is extremely dangerous. Now, every time I go to make a left-hand turn on Southdale Road, I'm holding my breath, hoping I'm not going to get slammed from behind. So if a driver is doing a similar turn on 322 on South Burdell, and there's a car coming east on 322 with plans to come into your property, there's no turn lanes there. And I don't see there being turn lanes there. I mean, I'm not gonna make the road any wider. I don't have a problem with Dollar General coming to Honeybrooke, but I agree with some other people that particular space just isn't safe or good for that kind of retail operation. And I mean, how many more people have to die at that intersection before something changes?
Yeah, I will certainly reiterate, I mean, we will be required to work with PennDOT and do a traffic impact study and obtain an HOP. So those are all typical things. We will have to do a turn lane warrant analysis, and everything's gonna have to be studied to determine what's needed or what isn't needed. And unfortunately, at this point in time, we haven't done those studies yet, so I really can't speak to that right now.
Jen, I have a question for you. As I think Karen mentioned, I recall that this similar proposal came up, 5-6 years ago, and it never went forward.
I think there was a sketch plan years ago, might have been years, I don't remember it fully off the top of my head. But yeah, I think it needed zoning.
10 years
relief.
ago, was it long?
Yeah, it needed zoning relief, and so it didn't move.
So I think that was Family Dollar. That was Family
Yes.
Dollar. Yeah.
Okay.
But what would have changed from that proposal to this proposal? Similar retail operation, same location, what's changed?
It's just it's Dollar General instead of Family Dollar.
Okay.
Other than that.
I mean, the other development.
What's changed about the site?
Nothing.
Maybe different buildings.
More traffic goes in front of it.
I'm sorry?
I said more traffic goes in front of it now than it did back then.
That's true. That is also very true.
That's the thing.
Can I ask you a question?
No, not right now. No, just hang on a second.
Okay.
Levi, you have anything
So what's the allowed impervious coverage on site?
with CDRs? What is it?
Yeah, by right, without transferable development rights, it's 55%. You can obtain a transferable development right and take your impervious cover up to 70%. Their proposal is 66%, would require one transferable development right, which we intend to obtain.
Where does the TDR come from?
They'll have to obtain that from a property that has seven of its TDRs. I believe the transfer has to be from within the township. I don't think there's like a municipal program for that.
Anything else, Aaron?
No, you guys covered it.
So, what the request is for the planning commission's recommendation to ultimately the zoning hearing board, along with the supervisor's recommendation. So we have three choices: to support the zoning relief, not support the zoning relief, or to not take a position. I prefer to take each one of these separate, but if you all want to take them together, we can take all of them together. What do you want to do?
I'm opposed to all of them.
So we'll take them individually.
We can take them individually, but I'm opposed to all of them.
Well, can you at least wait until we
No,
vote?
no.
Or someone makes a motion?
No.
Can I say something before we go?
Are you part of the applicant? Are you with the applicant?
I'm the property owner.
Then you can speak as part of the applicant. Yeah.
My name is Giovanni Agricola. I bought this property in 2008 from the Mulberry. When I bought this property was, the subdivision was done, and it was fully approved for 7,200 square foot building. So the only thing that would change between the approvals and what Dollar General is proposing is the size of the building, between 7,200 square feet and 10,000 square feet. So the height restriction, loading configurations, all that was already approved when I purchased this property. We do have an HOP permit. We have the one EDU for the property. We paid the connection fee back then. So by right, this can be developed for 7,200 square feet.
Then build a 7,200 square feet building.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just wanted to make that clear. I'm not saying either. I just wanted to emphasize that.
So the building has grown by a third?
3,000 square feet.
So it's over a third that it's grown. And now the applicant is coming back and saying that they have site constraints, part of which is compounded by the larger building that they're proposing. So I understand what you're saying, but it's not a 7,000 square foot building. It's a 10,000 square foot building, and they're asking for relief to their benefit to have a bigger building. So you should have built a 7,000 square foot building when you had all your rooms.
Right.
No, I understand. I just wanted to say that, And also, it is 10,000 square feet, but the retail part of it is probably only about maybe 6,000, 7,000. Most of it is storage and everything else.
But your other building had that too.
Yes. So I'm not saying either. I just wanted to say, but
No, I appreciate
what
it.
was approved before now. The rest is up to the board and the neighbors. That's where we are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I believe where we are is to take action one way or the other. So I'm going to entertain a motion from someone and a second, and then we'll take a vote on one of the three options. Recommend approval, not recommend approval, or no position.
I make a motion. We're doing first.
We're doing them So this would be off-street parking, section 27909 G1B. So we have a motion and we need a second. Any questions or comments?
That was a motion to not support.
That was a motion to not support,
That is
correct?
correct. And that was Melissa and Levi, seconded.
Yeah, any questions or comments? All in favor of supporting the motion in a second, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's our position on the Wall Street parking.
Next would be Wall Street.
So I'd like to entertain a motion for, again, one of the three options for the request for a waiver for section 27-914 P1B, which is relief from the signage requirement. Motion for one of the three.
I make a motion to not recommend.
Need a second.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to not recommend to the zoning hearing board to approve the waiver for the sign request. Questions or comments? All in favor of the motion and second, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that's not.
Right, yeah. And then the last
And then the
one.
final request is for all street, the relief from all street parking, section 27-910 D1A 3 and 912A 1A.
Right, and that's for the interference of the truck circulation patterns with the off-street parking spaces.
So the same request for a motion of one of the three options.
I make a motion to not support, but listen, can we put something in there about safety? Make some comment about safety, because that is a safety
So
issue.
you're choosing position of not support due to safety concerns? Safety concerns within the parking lot or within 322?
Both.
So I understand. All right, so the motion that I'll put in the minutes is a position to not support the variance from the loading area interference due to safety concerns within the parking lot and 322. That's your motion?
Acceptable? We need a second. We have a second. Any questions or comments? This vote would be to not support the relief for the parking as Jen stated. Other questions? All in favor of supporting the motion in a second, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Your next stop is the supervisors.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Supervisor's meeting is on Wednesday, April 12th.
Yeah, we're good. It's April 12th.
April 12th.
Second Wednesday.
Take it again.
Can I just make a comment?
We're getting there, we're getting there.
No, before he leaves.
No, well, okay, we have another business, so open forum, Karen, you're first.
That's fine, I was just.
No, go ahead and make your comment, we're
You
good.
know, I think these warriors are coming in thinking that we're a bunch of hillbillies. We're not a bunch of hillbillies. You know, we are very intelligent people. And
Thank you.
All right, right, we're now in open forum, are there any other comments? Yes, sir.
Yep, one comment? Thank you.
thank you.
You have another comment?
Yeah,
3 minutes, remember, Karen, 3 minutes.
also. I don't know if you guys have anything to do with this, but Lion Homes has like a dozen or so pine trees that are dead on their property. How do we get them to take them out and put new ones in?
I'm sure they'll take care of that. Those trees are probably warranted for a year. Yes.
Quick question. Valerie Schultz. Do you guys get notified when changes are proposed to saldo? Or does that just go directly to the Board of Supervisors?
It will come before the planning commission.
It will.
I believe it may be on the April planning commission agenda.
Because I know there's some changes that have been proposed, so I'd like to know as a member of the public what they are.
Right, I believe it'll be on the board agenda for April 12th to authorize sending those saldo amendments to the planning commission for their review. I forget if they also have to go to the Chester County Planning Commission for their review. So I would anticipate seeing them on our April, I think it's the 27th, planning commission agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Charles Ham, 49 West West Lane. Just want to point out that there's a Dollar General 10 minutes from here.
Oh, yeah.
In multiple directions.
I'm sorry, what was your name, Charles?
Ham, H-A-M-U-M.
Yes, there's one to the north in Morgantown and one to the south in Thorndale, and they both have much better access.
And then
Well, the odd thing is,
That's
the
one,
one,
not Thorndale.
the one in
Oh, no, we're
Morgantown
and the other side of Woodsville.
is, it's like always short-staffed and hardly ever open, so I'm not sure why we, like, we don't need right now.
Question, what is the next step?
The next step is they go through the same process with the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors will go through the same process and recommend their opinion to the zoning hearing board, to either support, not support, or not take a position. And then, I don't know, has it been advertised yet?
I do not believe a date has been set.
So then the zoning hearing board, they'll advertise all the surrounding neighbors that meet the criteria of what's required for a zoning hearing, will be notified, and there'll be a meeting set, public meeting that the zoning hearing board will have in this room. And then they will make the final decision. They're an independent of the planning commission and supervisors. They can take our recommendations or they can ignore our recommendations. That's their choice.
So because you're gonna be notified, you should come because you can be a party to the hearing.
That's
So
correct.
what I've noticed in previous zoning boards is there's been some really good input from the planning commission, but yet that doesn't get articulated at the zoning board hearing.
I will be at that zoning hearing board.
Okay, because all I've heard is they deny it, and then there's never
I
an
will be there.
explanation. Okay.
They generally, our office usually prepares a letter after the Board of Supervisors meeting to the zoning hearing board and their solicitor indicating what position the Board of Supervisors took.
They tell them the position, but they don't explain the reason why, and those were incredibly important, I think, for the zoning board to hear.
Okay.
As you're aware, they're really a separate judicial group arm of the township. They have their own solicitor, and they shouldn't be able to do what they want, but they, within reason, I guess they can make their own decision.
But if we're going to have this, they should at least hear.
They should hear the reasons why you don't want something, or, do want it. So.
Agreed.
I'll talk to them about that, being outlined and clear. And a lot of times, Mike Byron from our office writes the letters. I don't know to what level he puts it in there, but I'll mention to him, and I don't know whether they just pick and choose, what to say out of the letter or that, but I'll pass that comment along about making sure the reasons are in there.
Anyone else for open forum? I saw you come back in.
Oh, no, we just,
Oh, okay.
just hanging around. Oh, good.
If there's nothing else, we do have a list of the upcoming meetings, and I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion, second to adjourn. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Thanks for coming out, folks.
We see your concerns, because the concern is the size of the building. I just want to say that every everything else is approved, and the only thing is the size of the building.